Okay. So in the last class, we did discuss about what are classes and objects. We also started discussing about how do you create constructors and what is the main use case of creating constructors in a class, which was assigning some default values as soon as the object is called. We also discussed about when you create different kind of methods um, in a different class, how exactly you pull that specific function or method that you have created in another class in your main class, how to do that. And we did discuss about some of those things. In terms of in this specific class, we will also cover in much details your chapter number 7 so that you can do your quiz as well as assignment, which is due this week. So in the last class, I think I did talk about UML diagram, which is Unified Modeling Language diagram. So what exactly UML diagram depicts is it shows a pictorial representation, or what in other terms is class diagram for a specific class or a specific project that you are creating. It is divided into two compartments. One is field and the other one is termed as method. So let me open a whiteboard as well. So it's a class diagram, which is of a kind of a block that you create. And the way you usually create this class diagram is that you create a block, and in this block, you have first compartment, which tells you what are the fields, and the second compartment tells you what are the methods. And on the top of it, you write the class name. So let's suppose your class name is product. So you will write product on the top, and the first rectangle, you will put all the fields, which is what are the variables that you have created. And the second block, you will depict what are the methods which are being created. Let me also open Eclipse and let's do some class diagram so that you understand what exactly is this UML. Okay, so if you recall, this was the last program that we had written. There were certain variables, which is all variables or fields, you can say. These are the variables or fields that you have created in the main class. This is your main class. You have a method called printing. You have a constructor which doesn't take any argument. So it is called as no argument constructor. There is another one which is taking a single argument and it is processing a string value. So it is a parameterized constructor which is taking a string value. There is another constructor which is taking an integer value, and you have your main method which you have created certain objects which is initializing these constructor. One of them is initializing this no argument constructor. The second one is basically initializing the string value which you are passed inside the main when you are creating this main class object. And the third one is taking in the variable 7, so it will be initializing this constructor. And you are also calling 3 times each of these objects by calling this specific method. So let us suppose if you have to create the class diagram for this specific class. So how would you do that? Let me open my whiteboard again. And this time we will draw what exactly the class diagram will look for this specific class. So here our class name is main. So first of all, you will create a block diagram like this. the class name is main, and the first part, which you will list down the variables that are being initialized, which are termed as fields. So here in this case, it is a name. So you will write name is one variable, A is another one, B is another one. So this will comprise of the variables which are inside the class. And then inside this, you will also write down what are the methods which are being initialized in this specific class. So here we have printing method. So printing is one method. Printing. Sorry, I'm using my mouse to write. So that's why my writing is coming pretty bad. The other one is main. So this is another methods or constructors are called or are written in the second block. Then it is main, which is taking in string argument. So let me show you this over here. It's very similar to this example that I am writing over here. What it does is that first you write down all the methods which are or constructors as well as the fields which are passed. So the way I'll come back to my diagram over here, this is taking the second, sorry, this is my eclipse here. And here is my diagram. Okay. So one is main, the other one is taking string argument. So you will write down string inside this. And the third one is main, once again, which is taking an integer value. So you will pass integer value over here. This name is kind of a string value. So you will include a colon and you will write string. A is an integer, so you will include a colon. You will tell that it's an int value. B is also a integer value, so you will put this as an int value. This printing is not returning anything. It is taking void. So printing would be as is. Main is also not returning anything. So you will just write as is. Main string is also not returning, but it is taking string arguments. So you will write main string inside it, then main int. And the last one is the main method. So you will include this main and it is taking string array. So you will include string array. Besides, in this UML diagram, you also include what are the access specifiers. And access specifiers I will cover in the class today so that you understand what exactly are these access specifiers. These access specifiers provide you where exactly these variables or fields or methods can be accessed. So for instance, let me give you an example. You have your home and you have so many items inside your home. You have your chair, you have table, you have bed, you have couch. And let us suppose you do not want that this particular items that you have in your home to be accessible in another home. So what exactly you will do it, you will include an access specifier called private. So you will tell that to the Java compiler that this specific item or this specific variable or this specific method is just private to my class. Nobody else can access it. So that is the reason there is a private access specifier. There is another private access specifier called public, and that's what we have been using. Public means it is publicly available. Very similar to, let's suppose that you have your open house on, or let's suppose any university you take. University are public university and private university. So public university, anyone can come inside, anyone can go outside. Private university is just limited to some private people which have the authority to go inside it. So very similar kind of terminology is used in Java to tell to the compiler that all the things which are written inside the class is either public or private. Public means it can be accessed even outside. So that is the reason, if you remember, in the last class when we were writing certain programs, um, there was this bicycle class. So by bicycle class, we had this braking method. We also created this lamp which had turn on and turn off. And inside this main, we were creating the objects for this bicycle class. Sorry, I think I removed that particular object creation. But what was going on over here, I had made this specific method. So there is also a default. So when you do not include public and private, so sometimes you write public. And when you do not include public, it's called as default access specifier. And default access specifier are visible inside that package. So this package that you have created, this default package, anything which you are creating inside this package would be accessible to all the classes. So when you do not include anything, this is termed as default. It's a default, and you do not have to include a default keyword in general. But default basically means when you do not include public or private, then in that case, that specific method is default, which means anything which is inside this default package, anything which is inside, whether it is bicycle, whether it is lamp, whether it is main, everything is being accessible. If you will create a class over here, like divide by 2, you cannot access in this specific package. That's what default package basically means, default keyword. So when you do not include public or private, then in that case, all the variables or methods that you have created are default to the package in which you are creating your classes, your Java programs. So that is a default keyword. There is public keyword, as I mentioned. Public keyword is publicly accessible, but there is also private keyword, which is private variable and which is just local to that specific um, class. So what exactly I mean by that is, let me write one program, very small program. So inside this, my November 11th package, I will create a new class. And this time I'll create the class name as data, and I'll click finish. So this is data. And inside this, I will create a single string value or a field or a variable string name. So as I mentioned, if I do not include anything, then it is a default. It's a default means this name is visible to lamp.java, it is visible to main.java, it is visible to bicycle.java. When I make this specific variable as public, public means anyone can access, even the other class, this another package can access this particular variable. You just have to create an object for this specific class to access this specific variable. There is another keyword, as I mentioned, which is private keyword. Private. Private is, it is just local to this specific class. Only anything which is inside this class should be able to access this name. So as I mentioned, it is very similar to houses concept. You have your house, and if you have a couch in your house, if you make it private, then only this house can access. If you have another house, this is house number 2, H2, this is house 1. So if you want to access this couch inside H2, you cannot do it if you have made a specific variable as private. However, if you make it as public, I'll write down over here. Let's suppose you have one house, this is another house, and let's suppose you have a table over here. And if you want to access this table inside another house, then in that case, so if it is H1 and H2, if you make it public, you can access this specific table to H2 as well. That is public. And default is something where, so for instance, you have your package is that project that you create, and inside that you have a package, and inside this you have multiple classes that you can create. Let's suppose it has h1, h2, and h3. So if you have a variable in h1, and if you do not include public and private, then in that case, even h2 can access it, even h3 can access it. But if you have another package, and here you have h4, h5, and h6, then in that case, if you have not included public and private, then it becomes a default keyword. So if anything which has been assigned in H1 cannot be accessed in H4. Is it making sense? Any questions? Is it making sense? Is everyone following? That what are these access specifiers? Okay. So now in our UML diagram, what happens is you can also tell when you are creating this UML diagram. So in this UML diagram that you have created, you can include this signs. Plus means public. Public, it's a public field. Minus means it's a private field. If you have included public, it would be all plus 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 in your UML diagram. If you have included a private, then it is a negative sign. Let me go back to the slide. If you will see over here, there is this product class. And in the product class, you have these three variables: code, description, and price. Code is private and is of type string. Description is private and is of type string. Price is a private variable and is of type double. And these are the different methods: set code, set description, get description, get price formatted. In this set code, you are passing a single argument. In get code, you are not passing anything, but you are returning a string value. Set description, you are passing a string value. Get description, you are not passing anything, but you are returning string. Set price, you are passing a single argument, which is double. Get price, you are not passing anything, but you are returning double. Get price formatted, you are not passing anything and you are returning string. So it's a class diagram which will overall depict what exactly this specific class has. This class has three fields and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seven methods inside it. So rather than someone actually going into the code and looking at the code, this class diagram helps in understanding what exactly is present in this specific class. So I'll get back to my code once again. And here was this private variable that I have created, which is string name. Now what I'll do is I will create another. Let's just use this main class. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me just create a new package. So I'll create new Java project, and this is today's November 13th. Programs, add projects to click next, finish. So this is 13th. And inside this, I'll create my new class, which is data, and finish. And inside this, sorry, I will create a variable called private string and name. And here I will also create a new class called main. And let's try to access this specific variable, which is string name inside this main. So this is my main, and let me just include public static void main string args. So inside this, in order for me, first of all, to access this variable, which is name, I have to create an object for this class. I believe everyone knows that if I have two different classes, and if I in one class, which is having the main method, in order to access another class into this class, I have to create an object. So if I have main class, which has the main method, and have another class, which has some other variables and method, in order for me to access this class to another class, what I can do is I can create an object. So here in this, I will create an object for the data class because I want to access the variable which is over here. So what I'll do is I'll create data D is equals to new data. And everyone knows that what exactly this specific line means. So new data will call the default constructor. But here in this particular program, we have not created any constructor, so we do not have to worry about that. But we can create another constructor to, to initialize as soon as the object is created. But here in this, we are not worried about that because we have not created constructor. But now let's try to access the variable, which is this variable. Can anyone tell me if I want to access this variable, what exactly I would write over here in my main class? I'll repeat my question. I have this variable called name. And if I want to access this specific variable, which is name, in my main class, I've created the object. How would I access this variable, which is name?
Would you type like data.name?
Data.name or d.name?
Oh, I d.name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
d.name. Perfect. In order for me to access that specific variable. If I had created an name as data, then in that case, I could write data.name. Okay, that's how you access a specific variable, but I will write over here d.name. So it is giving me an error. If you see over here, it says syntax error, insert variable declarators to complete local variable declaration. The field data.name is not visible. This is because we have made it as private, but let us remove this private. And let's see over here, it is still giving me an error. And this time the error is basically once again, insert variable declarators to complete local variable declaration. So what I'll do is, let me just make it as some thing over here. Let's just say humanity, d.name. But now let me make it as private and try to see that whether it will work or not. And you will see that d.name equals to humanity is giving me an error saying field data.name is not visible because you have made this as a private variable. So private, once again, I'll repeat, private is local to that specific class, whichever class you have created that variable. It could be considered as house one. So this is house one, and this is your house two where you want to access the other variable. So this one is private, which means this specific variable is just local to this specific class, which is house one. If I want to access in another class, I cannot access in house number 2 because the variable was a private variable. But if I make this as public variable, you will see the error will go away because it's a public variable. Anyone can access. Anyone can access. And if in order for me to access in another class, I have to create an object. And that object would help me to use a specific variable or a specific method in another class. That is the most important thing that you should remember when you are working with private and public. So once again, if I come in this specific diagram, which is over here, let me draw the UML diagram for this. So in this case, my UML diagram would be two classes. One is your data class, and the another class is the main class. And as I mentioned, UML diagram has two compartments, fields and the methods. So data class just has a single variable, which is name. So what I will do is I will write name, and name is a kind of a string. So it would be colon, then string. And since it's a private value, I will include a negative sign. So that's for the data class. It doesn't have any method. So a method block would be empty. So this is your field and this is your method. In your main class, you did not had any variable or field, but you have a main method. So you will have main, and main is taking string array. So you will have something like this. And since you are creating an object for this class, these specific class would be linked. Main and data would be linked with each other. So that's how people understand what exactly, when you create a very, very big project, how exactly the classes are connected and so on. You can basically show the link between multiple classes. So once again, I'll come back to my variable that I had created, which is private variable. So here we go. 1 second. This is my data. And inside this data, I have, I was getting an error when I was making it as a private keyword. It says that it has a private accessibility or it's not visible. So what if you need to access some private variables, how exactly you can access these private variables in another class? So there is this concept of setters and getters. I believe this would be helpful for your next assignment that you are doing. But even if you do not use setters and getters, I'm completely fine with it. But I wanted to cover because quiz, since we are following chapter by chapter from that specific book that has been assigned, in that they covered this concept of setters and getters. So what exactly setters and getters basically says is that if you have created a private variable and if you want to access it in another class, then in that case, you can use setters and getters. And how exactly you can create setters and getters is right-clicking this field and okay. And you will, when you right click, there is source. And inside this source, you will see generate getters and setters. So I will select this. So it is for name variable. It will create getter to get the value, setter to set the value. And I will generated, and I will make this as public, and I'll say generate. So you will see automatically two methods are created. One is get name and the other is set name. The get name returns this value, which is name, and set name is using this particular keyword called this keyword. And this I'll also cover in today's class so that you understand. And if it is too much for the class today, I can put this assignment, which is due on this Friday, to the next Monday if needed. But let's try to understand what exactly this is doing. So what I did, once again, I right clicked for this name variable. So I'll get rid of this once again. The concept that I am covering right now is that if you have a private variable in one class, and if you want to use it in another class, how can you use that specific private variable in your main class? The way you do is by creating setters and getters for that specific variable or field. In order for me to create setters and getters, I will right click that specific variable, which is private, and then I will go to source and I will select generate setters and getters. I will select this name and I will say generate. And it automatically generates this get name and set name. And over here in this specific um, class, if I now want to use that specific variable, rather than doing d.name, I will do d.setName. And inside this, I will pass humanity. And I can now write system.out.println and d.getName. And I'll explain it to you step by, d.getName. d.getName. Oh, get name, the name is, N is capital, so get name. So you will see now I am not getting an error and I am able to access a variable which is private in nature using this concept of setters and getters. Set name assigns the value to this variable, which is this name variable, and get name accesses the variable. And you do not have to write this function. You can just right click it and select source and generate setters and getters, and it would allow you to access in the main method. And in order for you to access, the only difference, the only change in code you would be doing is first you would be creating an object called D, and then first you will use the method called setter, which is the set name, which is in this case is set name, and you will pass what exactly you want to assign that specific value is. So here in this case, I want to assign the value as humanity, and system.out.println get name will retrieve that specific value. So setter assigns a value to a private variable, getter will retrieve the value from the another class wherever you have assigned. But if you create another object or another variable, this time if it is public, so I can write public, and this is string, and this is first name. This is one variable. If I want to access that specific variable, I will write first name, and I can assign humanity or just say advancing. And the private variable can be accessed using set name and get name. This particular word, which is this keyword, this is another keyword which is used in Java, and it's an important concept that you should remember. What exactly this keyword explains or uses is to refer to the current object inside a method or a constructor. And I'll give you one example to totally make sense on what exactly this keyword basically means. Am I going too fast, or is it okay speed, or do you want to me to pause a little, or it's fine so far? Is it making sense? Okay. So now let's understand this keyword, which is also very important keyword in Java. So what I will do is I will create another class, and just to make you illustrate what exactly this keyword is. So I'll create a new class, and the class name that I will create is maybe um, main class. Um, yes, Lillian. So we do string, then we put name, then first name and last name. I did not include, I just included the first name. Um, 1 second. So here, if you come over here, let me just first create this class main class, and which has public static void main, and I'll finish this. But come back over here. So here what I'm doing is I created two variables to make you understand the difference between public variable and private variable. Public variable, as I mentioned, can be publicly accessible. Try to visualize this particular concept as you have many houses, and one house you want to make it private so that nobody else besides you can access anything which is in that house one. So you will make everything private. And now you have another house too, and in that you want to make it accessible to everyone. So you can make anything which is inside that house too as public. So here in this case, in the same house, which is house number one, I created two variables. One is private, which you want to keep it with yourself, and one is public so that anyone can access it outside. So if I want to access this specific uh, first name, which is kind of a public variable in another class, what I can do is first I have to create an object, and then I can access that variable by using d dot first name, and then I will just assign a specific value to it. But if I create a private variable, there is this private keyword, which is private string name. This variable, which is name, if I want to access it inside this specific class, I cannot just say d dot name and then I say humanity. Sorry, name, not first name, d dot name. It gives me an error because this is a private variable and it cannot be accessed as is. So if I want to access it, I can create setters and getters for this specific private variable. And the way you can access that specific variable is you can first assign a value to it using setName, which is by creating the setter for that specific variable, and you can retrieve the value by um, the getter, which is automatically assigned. So if I create another values, let me give you another example. Private, maybe int, and this is number. And I want to access this specific value. So the way I can do is in my main class, I can just say d dot number equals to 10. But it is still giving me an error because it's a private variable. So if I want to access that, what I can do is inside my data class, I'll right click, I'll go to source, and I'll say generate getters and setters for this variable, which is number, get number and set number, I will say generate. So it automatically generates get numbers and set number. And if I want to now basically access, assign a specific value or not assign or just retrieve a value in this specific class, I will say d dot get number to access it and d dot set number to assign a specific value, which in this case is, let's suppose, 7. And d dot get number will retrieve that specific value. Lillian, does it make sense? Are you following up? Okay. So now what I wanted to cover was, so I did cover this get number, getters and setters, but if you see over here, there is this keyword. Let's understand what exactly this keyword is. This keyword is also very important in Java in general. So let's suppose I create a variable called int number, which is inside my main class. And there is this number variable. It's a default access specifier because I have not included as public or private. I am just writing int number. It's default, which means anyone which is inside this package, which is default package, should be able to access this number variable. So now what I'll do is I'll also create the constructor for this main class. So how exactly I can create the constructor is I was checking if there is an automatic way to generate the constructor. So what I'll do is I will write main class. So as you recall from the last class, constructor is the same name method as the class name, which in this case is main class, and which can take arguments or which cannot take arguments. It depends upon the way you want to initialize the constructor whenever you are creating an object. So here in this class, in this constructor, what I'm doing is I'm passing this variable, which is this specific value. So what I'll do is I'll just say int number. So what I'm doing is I am accessing this specific number in my constructor. So what I will do over here is if I want to access this specific value, what I can do is I can, one way is if somebody writes number equals to, let's suppose, number. And inside this, what I will do is I will create an object. So main class D is equals to new main class, and which is taking one argument, which is 7. And what I'll do is I will try to access this specific number and I'll say D dot number. And I'll put this inside system dot out dot println D dot number. Okay, so question for everyone. Tell me what exactly the output of this specific program would be. Michael, you are right. 0. what else? What does everyone else think? What would be the output in this program, of this specific program? Any guesses, everyone? What exactly would be the output? You can write this specific program and in your Eclipse and tell me what do you get as an output. Yes, you are also right. So if you will be able to write the program and tell me the output, I will mark your attendance today. Karen, you are also right. Alexander, you are also right. Aaron, you are also right. Please write down the program and tell me the output that you are getting. Alexandra, you are also right. Kyla, you are also right. I'll wait a couple of more minutes for everyone and then I'll resume back. So please tell me the answer so that I can mark your attendance.
I can't get mine to work.
You can't.
Error that says assignment to variable number has no effect.
Okay, let me do one thing. Can you share your screen?
Yes. I think I'm sharing it now.
Okay, so number dot number and d dot but I don't see any error on the code. Um, try to run. See. Okay. Unresolved compilation problem.
Yeah, it's like not loading this class. Launch main class?
Okay, try to main class. Let's see. Um, can you go to that line number 1 where it is showing you that error? It's
Alright.
already defined. Try to change the name. So right click, first change it to maybe just write November as the class name. Public class, and this make this also your line number 4 to be November. And yeah, when you are creating the object, then to just make it as November D and then and equals to new November.
Oh, okay. Was
Yeah,
no
space new then space. Yeah, November. Yeah. Now right click your main class.java. Go to refactor, rename, and make it as November. Yeah. Okay. When you run this, what happens?
Oh,
Okay.
0.
Yeah, there might be that you might have created in the past main class, and then you might have deleted it, and it stores the class name. And because of that, since you again created, Java compiler gets confused and says that that class is already there. And that is the reason we just changed the name of the class and now it runs. Does it make sense?
It does, yes.
Okay, awesome. Let me get back and show the screen. Okay, so I believe everyone got it running. I did not receive response from Lillian and Gog. So would you mind
Uh,
sharing? Yeah. Are you also
I
getting?
I did it. I finished it.
You did? You got 0?
Yeah, I got 0.
Okay, awesome. And Lillian?
Me or the other one?
Uh, without an E. Lillian.
Oh,
Hi, yeah, sorry. I got an error on number 7. I think it was the number one. I thought it was the equal sign. This is what I came up with.
Okay, yeah, this is good. And you are getting 0 as an output?
Actually, I keep getting error for number 7. I wanted to see what I got wrong for it.
Oh, semicolon. You have not included number equals to number, then semicolon.
Oh, okay. Then I'll add that. I think after that I should get it. Okay, give me 1 minute.
Okay, so so if you see in this specific code, what we are doing is that we are creating a variable called number. We created, this is the constructor. And this constructor is accessing this number that you have created in your main class. And then you are just assigning that number to number, which means that whatever is the number which is being passed would be assigned to this variable, which is number. And then in order for you to do that in your main class, what you are doing is you are passing that integer value which you want to assign as a number, which in this case is 7. So new main class 7, what it will do is it will pass 7 over here. It will assign 7 over here, but it is not assigning that value to 7. And this is the main reason we are not able to assign that value is that the Java compiler, it gets confused because of the ambiguity in the names between the instance that you are passing and the parameter. So what exactly does that mean? So what it says, it gets confused that this is number, and then once again you're passing that into number. I think that's what Java compiler thinks. Java compiler thinks, I think I'm getting confused. There are two numbers, and then you are assigning the same value to me to another number. What if I change this to another value, which is E, and I pass this to E? Would I change? Now let's see, Java compiler will compile it again and we'll see, yes, now it makes sense. E is passed and E is being assigned to that specific value. So now we are able to get the number, which is 7. If I was using the same name, the Java compiler gets confused that I think I'm getting confused. You pass me to that number 7, and then you're again assigning me to number, which is the instance or which is the argument for this class, and the instance of the class is cannot be the same value. So what you can do is, in order to get rid of that error, it was not giving you an error, but in order to assign that value, one way to address is to pass it to another name and then assign it to that name. So that is one way. Or if you want to use the same thing, which is number, and here it is number, the way that you would be doing is you will be just writing this dot number equals to number. So this dot number, which is a specific kind of variable or a keyword which is being used to make Java compiler saying that, okay, the number that you have passed, I want to assign this to that specific variable also that I have created. So that is the reason this keyword is used, so that Java compiler can basically understand that the value that you are passing and this variable which is inside my class can hold the same value. So if I'll run it, it will give me the output, which is 7 once again. So this keyword is specifically used in such a way that the Java compiler is able to understand the ambiguity of the same name by using this keyword. One way to get rid of this error is to just have another variable and then assign it. Or if you want to use the same uh, variable name, then just use this dot number equals to number, and then it should be able to access or change the values in this specific case. So here, once again, I'll get back to my this data, and here, let me get rid of this number, and let's see what exactly was going on here in this set name. So if you saw, what we did was we created a private variable called name. And then what we did was we created the setter and the getter. The setter was setting the name which you were passing, and then it was assigning to this dot name. So this keyword is basically making the Java compiler understand that the value that you are passing, I want to assign it to this object that, or this specific variable which is in my class, so that I do not get confused. So here in my main class, when I'm passing this, I'll get rid. So when you are passing humanity, which is the name, it will come back over here. You are passing humanity over here. This humanity will be now stored to this specific instance, which is, even though it is private in nature, you are able to assign that specific value with the same name. That is the main reason you use this keyword. Does it make sense that what exactly this keyword is and where exactly you will be using it? Okay. So now let's get back to the slides so that whatever I've covered, I think now it will make some sense in terms of when you create a class diagram, what exactly private is, what exactly is public is, and so on. So this is one of the class, which is a product class, and you can copy the code which is available on the slides, run it on your machine, and basically see that there are 3 variables that have been created, and there are 7 methods which are being created, and which is either public or it is private in nature. And in order to access these private variables, because it is negative, negative, or minus, 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 we have created setters and getters. So setters, getter for code, set description and get description for accessing the description, price, which is once again private in nature, to set price and get price, to assign or retrieve that value. And there is another one called get price formatted, to format a specific value. So what exactly this specific program does in the next diagram, this is another class representation between, if you have 2 different classes, and this is the actually this is the class and its object interdependencies. So this is a product class which has 3 private variables: code, description, price. Code is string, description is string, price is double. You create 2 objects, object 1 and product 1 as one object and product 2 as another object. Product 1 has code value as Java, description value as Murad's Java programming, price value is 57.50, and it has another
pediatric home health. This
Um,
call will be monitored or recorded for quality assurance.
I believe somebody has
Oh, that's me. Oh, hold on.
Have recently changed. For Spanish, please press 2.
okay, Chad, I believe you are not unmuted.
My mute thing isn't working. Hold it. Can I leave the thing to come back?
Yeah.
Okay. That's weird.
Stay on the line. To dial by
Okay. So here what is going on in this is that we created 2 objects, product 1 and product 2. Object 1 can assign these values, which is Java, Murad's Java programming and 57.50, and product 2 as MySQL, Murad's MySQL and 54.50 in another class. And in order to assign these values, you can use setters and getters. And that's what the program in the consecutive slides will sell. So here is your product class. Product has 3 private variables: private string code, private string description, private double price. Here is the constructor where you are assigning nothing to these values, to these variables, code, description, and price. So it's a default constructor, which is public in nature. And then you are using setters and getters for set description, get description, and set price and get price. And there's another one which is get price formatted. And let me get back to my Eclipse once again. And let me create a new class over here, product. So I'll create a new class, which is product, and finish. And here I will create 3 variables, private, the variables, 1 second. Your 3 variables, string code, string description, double price. So string code, string code, string description, double price. So 3 variables, all are private in nature. I want to assign setters and getters so that I can access it. I will right click. I will come to source and I'll say generate setters and getters. In one way, like I can create for each one of them in one go. So I can just select code, description, price, and it will create all of this automatically. I'll say generate and see this gets generated. And if I want to assign certain values, what I can do is I can come back over here, create new, then class, and this I will write just as product class. I'll include public static void main. And in order for me to access those variables, I can just first create the object product D is equals to new product. And if I want to create a constructor for this product class, what I can do is I think there should be a way to just create. Let's try this. I don't think it will work. Let's just create, so we will just say product. This is the constructor for this product class, and I can just say code equals to, this is the other ones. I will come over here, code equals to, I'm not assigning anything. Description also, I'm not assigning anything. And price also, I'm not assigning anything. So this is the constructor. Sorry, price is maybe 0.0. So I created a constructor. Nothing has been assigned to each one of them. I have created the setters and getters. Now inside this, if I want to assign certain values, so d dot code, sorry, get set code, and I can assign something inside it. So which is, let's suppose, set code as ABC. And if I want to retrieve it, get code, and I can pass inside the system.out.println. Or get code. If I'll run this, it should run completely fine. So I'm able to access a private variable which I have created using setters and getters. And in my product class, I can access it by just creating an object for that specific class and calling the set code to set the values and get code to set the value. That is all about this specific program which is given over here. Now, as I mentioned, there is a syntax which is specifically used. You can either make it as private or public. When you make it as private, you would have to assign the setters and getters. So here is what this specific program is saying, that there are three values which are private in nature. You can just create setters and getters by right-clicking and selecting source and then setters and getters, and it will automatically create them. And if you want to access those variables in your class, you can just create an object and just use set name and get name. That's what this specific program basically says. You can, this is a constructor that assigns default values, which is null in this case. You can assign, instead of null values, you can just pass quotes. That's what I had passed in my product class. Or what you can do is you can pass three values, which in this is string code, string description, and double price, and then use this dot code is equals to code, this dot description equals to description, and this dot price equals to price. And I also explained you that if you do not want to use the same value, then in that case, just create another value over here and then assign, because we were getting, if you remember, the program that I made you run, you were getting a 0. So if you do not want that, in that case, just have another value being passed. And that's what I did cover in the programs that we covered. So this is with respect to also coding a method. A method can also be made as a private or public. You just have to, instead of making that as public, you will write private. So this is a public method, public void print to a console. It is not returning anything. So that's the way it is void, and it is public in nature. So that is the reason it is written as public. This is a string, which is returning a string. The return type is string. It's public in nature, get code. So you will just pass return code and string value would be returned. Public double get price. Nothing is passed over here because you are retrieving and you are just returning that specific value that you have assigned. This is a formatted value method, which is once again public in nature. It returns string values. It just gives you certain examples. Then a set method is if you want to assign the setter for a method which is set code, which is what you are doing in this specific program. So let me get back over here. This was your code, and this was your set code. This is the method. That's what it is showing in the slides as well. And similarly, another way to code a set method is pass another value. Rather than using this dot code, you can just pass another value and then assign. And that's what we covered that too. How to create setters and getters is just right-clicking and selecting source and selecting create getters and setters. We did also cover that if you want to if you create multiple constructors, this is a constructor with no argument. This is another constructor which is taking 3 arguments. This is another constructor which is passing values inside this. So one which is taking 3 arguments, one which is taking 0 argument, and one which is taking all the 3 arguments. The code that I had written, this is with no argument, but I can also create another constructor, and inside this I can pass string C, then string D, and double P. And inside this, I can assign certain values, that code equals to C, description equals to D, and price equals to P. So if I want to use this specific constructor, when I'm creating the object, rather than writing this, what I can do is I can say product D1 equals to new product, and I can just pass values. So first is taking an argument. So I will just say as XYZ. Next is description. So I will pass, this is just a string. And the last one is taking a double value. So I'll pass 7.0. So this is another way that you are creating an object D1. And this D1 is when you are creating the object D1, it will call the constructor, which is taking these three arguments, XYZ, this is just a string, and 7.0. And as soon as if you want to access any value, what I can do is, let's do one thing. If I'll say D1 dot get code, and I'll put this inside system.out.println. D1.code, and if I'll run this, it is able to retrieve the value that I have assigned, which is X, Y, and Z. In the previous case, I was not assigning, so that is the reason I used set code to assign the value. But here, this new object that I created, D1, is already passing these values, which is X, Y, Z. This is just a string. I can just retrieve the value by calling D1.getCode. If I'll just write, for instance, D1.course, if I'll just pass that value, I'll still get this error because this code is private in nature. So every time, remember, if it is a value which is private in nature, then the only way that you can retrieve in another class is to create or to retrieve that in another class is to create setters and getters in another class, and then just use set code to assign the value and get code to basically retrieve the value. And if you are passing, whenever you are creating the constructor, in that case, in this example, this is with 3 arguments. And this is with no argument. And this is your assigning the value. This is like retrieving the value. How is the class doing? Is it too much? Is it good?
I didn't pay attention earlier because I was still trying to do the example. At my end, it keeps saying error, but
It's still giving you error?
yeah, I sent it to you during the meeting chat. It says error. It keeps saying error for number 2.
Okay, let's see. I'll get back to you, Lillian. One second. I think I'll end the class today. I believe the reason because I think I covered a lot of concepts today, and if you want, I can extend your assignment and quiz to Monday. Do you guys want that, or you are okay with Friday? Monday, okay. So I'll make it on Monday, your assignment, both your quiz as well as the assignment. But if you do not understand any of these concepts, please look back to the recording once again. If I was speeding up, you can just always follow along. As soon as I will post the video, make sure that you look back and at least look at the quiz. And if even after looking at that, if you are having trouble in understanding, then we can discuss it on Monday. And finally, next week, I'll start covering arrays, which is also very important topic. in your Java. And I think that would be all that we would be covering in this specific class. So I covered a lot of things in Java programming. I covered your variables. I covered methods, method overloading, different kind of variables. What is this keyword? What are getters and setters? What are constructors? And what are classes and object? And one very last thing is arrays. And that will be all, which would be covered in this class. So by next week and the consecutive classes, we will be just focused on arrays. So make sure that you come to the class. So if you have any questions, you can always ask me. But with this, I'll end the class. If you have any questions, just stay in the class. Otherwise, I'll just give the response to Lillian. Thank you, everyone. So, Lillian, would you mind sharing your screen?